Y'all, let me tell you about a moment that scared me to death. A few years back, I was sitting at my computer paying bills when it hit me I was heading straight for retirement with next to nothing saved. My kids were grown, grandbabies were on the way, and I was staring down the road to my future, and let me tell you, it didn't look pretty. That realization, it was like a ton of bricks dropping right on my head. But here's the thing, I didn't just sit there. I decided to do something about it. And that's why I'm here today, to share my story with you. If you're in the same boat, I want you to know that it's not too late. Stick around because I promise this is one story you don't want to miss. So why am I making this video? Honestly, it's different from my usual content. This one's personal. I want to peel back the curtain and show you what it really feels like to wake up and realize you're not ready for retirement. It's a tough pill to swallow, but I hope sharing my journey will inspire you to take that first step toward a better future for you and your family, no matter where you're sitting at. Let me set the scene for you. I was about to turn 50. My daughters were leaving the nest. Grandbabies were starting to show up. And my wife and I were finally starting to think about what our golden years might look like. But as I sat down to go through the bills, I felt a sinking feeling in my gut. The numbers, they don't lie. I had next to nothing saved for retirement. Fear, regret, uncertainty, and heck, even a little bit of shame kind of all hit me at once. But you know what? I also had another feeling hit me because I also had this tiny spark of determination. I couldn't change the past, that's for sure. And that's the thing about time. You can't turn it back. It's like this river here. It just keeps flowing on by. What I could do is change what came next. And that's where my story really begins. Here's a hard truth. My family isn't exactly known for being great with money. Except for my dad. He worked the same job for 37 and a half years and retired with a full pension and health benefits. But that's mighty rare these days. Most folks now bounce from job to job every few years, and that's kind of old school stability that he had just doesn't exist anymore. But even though my dad was good with money, we didn't talk about it much growing up. I think that was pretty common for folks in my generation. Now, don't get me wrong. My dad gave me some solid advice through the years. He'd say, son, you ain't never going to have nothing unless you get a job and stick with it. And that was true back in his day. Companies rewarded loyalty with pensions and benefits. But nowadays, we have to be our own advocates. We have to look out for ourselves. We have to learn about retirement accounts and make the right choices so that we can afford to retire one day and not work the rest of our lives. Me, I'd actually started saving for retirement a few times, but I'd also spent it a few times on moves, big purchases, you name it. I had a poor track record with money for sure, and I kept making the same mistakes over and over again. But then came my wake-up call. I didn't want to end up like so many people I'd seen struggling in their later years. I definitely wanted to retire someday and not just scrape by, but actually enjoy it. You know, I couldn't get those lost years back, but I knew even small steps could make a difference. And I made the decision it was time for a change. The first thing I needed was a plan. I started by reverse engineering my retirement. I asked myself, what's my Social Security going to look like? How much money am I going to get? And how much money will I need to supplement it? So I logged into my Social Security account to see my estimated benefits, or whatever they call it. And let me tell you, that number was an eye-opener. That's when I had to shift my thinking. Instead of focusing on having more, I started focusing on needing less. Here's a little analogy for you. I'm into solar power as a side hobby. And when you start thinking about going solar, the first thing you do is figure out how to cut down your energy usage. Solar panels are very expensive, not to mention the batteries. So you want to minimize what you need before you invest, right? So you start by switching into energy efficient appliances, drying your clothes on a clothesline, and cutting out unnecessary power usage. The less you need, the easier and cheaper it is to go solar. That's the approach that I took with my retirement. I knew I didn't have time to build up a huge nest egg, so I started looking for ways that I could live on less. The biggest change I made is my wife and I built a tiny home. Being mortgage free was a game changer. We spent about a year and a half building an 800 square foot house, paying cash as we went. And now, not only do we not have a mortgage or rent payment, but we also have more money to put into our retirement savings accounts for what little time we have left to save. Next, we looked at major bills and made cuts wherever we could. I dove headfirst into learning about retirement savings like 401ks, Roth IRAs, HSAs, you name it. Once I understood how those accounts worked, I started saving immediately. Our next big goal was getting out of consumer debt completely so that we will not owe anyone a dime when we retire. At first, progress was slow, but I celebrated every small win, paying off a bill, watching our savings grow. It all added up, right? So eventually, the big wins started coming, building our home debt-free, starting my retirement accounts, and finally, feeling peace about the future. Now, let me speak directly to you. I know how overwhelming it feels to start from zero, to look at your finances and think, what's the point? But here's the truth, it's never too late. Small steps lead to big changes over time. You open a savings account, create a budget, or set up a simple goal to pay off one debt. You don't have to fix everything overnight, okay? You just have to start. Thanks for letting me share my story with you today. Now, I want to hear from you. What's the first step that you're going to take towards a secure retirement? Drop a comment below, and I'd love to hear your plans. And if this video gave you a little hope or inspiration, do me a favor and hit that like button, subscribe to Ask Pawpaw channel, and check out one of these videos that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy next. Let's keep working together to make your retirement years your best years yet. See you guys.